to the NFL. Allen looks like he has the new receiver that he needs. The Bills agreeing to a trade for DJ Moore from Chicago in exchange for a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick when the new league year begins on Wednesday. Moore turns 29 next month. He'll be reunited with new Bills head coach Joe Brady, who he played for and was very successful with in Carolina. He'll be a welcome addition on a Bills team that's been relying less and less on the wide receiver position. In 2020, 72% of their targets went to wideouts. That has fallen every single year since. They fell all the way down to 55% a year ago. Dan Graziano, let me start with you. What should we take from this? This feels like a seismic move on some level for both teams. Bills desperately needed the help. Bears have cleared a lot of cap space.
Bills needed a nominal number one wide receiver, and they feel like they have one in DJ Moore. Used their second-round pick to get him. So this is them saying, we didn't feel like whoever we were going to get with our second-round pick was going to help us as much as DJ Moore will this year. And the Buffalo, as we know, is in a win-now mode. You fire your coach after getting to the second round of the playoffs, you have to win. So that is their second-round pick, and that's what they've decided to do with it. For the Bears, DJ Moore became a bit of a surplus item. They've drafted in recent years, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland. The offense in the passing game will run through them. It's a run-heavy offense to begin with. So you get something of value for a player that, now you don't necessarily need, helps you create cap space. They made a bunch of moves over the past couple of days. They created almost $50 million in cap space as the Bears try to head into free agency and retool and get those 2 more wins than they had last year.
Okay, so let me take both sides of this. Tim Hasselbeck is up with us early this morning. Hadn't had a chance to welcome you officially yet. Tim, let's take the Buffalo side of it. One of the several things it feels like the Bills really need was help in that wide receiver room. We just showed you the numbers. Does this feel like the move they need? Is this enough to help Josh Allen finally get over the top?
Yeah, it's not enough, but it's definitely a good move. And, Dan, kind of characterized it as almost like a fringe number one wide receiver. I do think that's what you're getting with DJ Moore, but it's also why I think they're not done, addressing, the wide receiver room. Khalil Shakir is a very good player, but he's much better inside. You think about what they've done, like just this past year, 32-year-old Brandon Cooks is on the roster. He's been on 7 teams. And so, they need to improve. You've had the graphic up in terms of production and targets to wide receivers in their offense. Sure, they've tended to run the football a little bit more, but they just they need better wide receivers to help their quarterback out. Quarterback is always a dependent position, no matter how good your quarterback is. So look, I think they could still address wide receiver in the draft. I think addressing wide receiver in free agency still with kind of like this next tier, maybe Darnell Mooney, maybe Romeo Doubs, guys like that could still end up at a place like Buffalo.
Okay, so the Bills might still need a little bit of help, but it's a step in the right direction. Meanwhile, my general manager, Mike Tannenbaum, let's think about this from the Chicago side of this. Dan just pointed out they've cleared up a lot of cap space. What do you think they're using it for?
Well, it's 2 things. One could be center Tyler Linderbaum from the Baltimore Ravens. Unexpectedly, Drew Dahlman, who was an effective center for them last year, retired Greeny, and then they need pass rush help. So when we talk about Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, maybe does Myles Garrett eventually, come loose from Cleveland? Those are some names to look at. And here's something else to consider. Well, here's Max Crosby, who would be immensely helpful to, obviously, to the Bears or any team. But the old axiom of win for today, develop for tomorrow applies here. Give them a ton of credit. Luther Burden was a second-round pick a year ago. They need him to step up along with Rome Odunze. That allowed them to move on from DJ Moore. And as Graz mentioned, tons of cap room, great opportunity for them.
What are we thinking as far as all that cap space that gets cleared up there in Chicago?
When you look at what the Bears did last year when Ben Johnson got there, it was, acquire 2 guards and sign a center, and they did that. Now, the center unexpectedly gone after 1 year. Linderbaum could break the record by a pretty good chunk in terms of highest paid centers in the league. So I think they're going to be a factor in that market. Whether they get him or not remains to be seen, but I don't think it will be for lack of resources. I also do think, and I'm not sure these 2 things can both happen financially, but I do think they're a team to watch if and when the Raiders do decide to move on from Max Crosby. I think they will be definitely in that mix along with Dallas and a number of other teams.
That feels like the really big one. Joe.
Be proactive, not reactive. The Bears are in a great situation with the wide receivers because what's a big narrative we talk about with roster construction every year? The value of the franchise quarterback on the rookie deal. It gives you the ability to spend everywhere else. Well, to a lesser extent, pass rusher and wide receiver are very expensive positions. If you can make hay at wide receiver without paying big-time money, that frees up the rest of your roster to address the O-line or to address the pass rushers. Look at Cincinnati. They pay more than anyone else at wide receiver. O-line's an issue. Defense is an issue.
And look at, Buffalo, their first-round pick or high second-round pick wide receiver didn't work out, so they end up having to spend to fix that.
Greedy, to Joe's point, Colston Loveland, another skill player on a rookie deal. Ben Johnson loves using tight end. He's another reason they can move on from DJ Moore.
It's go for it time for the Bears right now. All right, we're just getting started. As you can tell, we are.
That they don't want to start Mendoza week 1 and that they want to give him time to develop. Now, we know it never works out. We know Mahomes is the only example, right, of a team that was able to wait all year and not play the guy, and that's because they started 5-0 with Alex Smith and stayed in first place all year. If you don't do that, you face pressure to play the kid right away. The investment is such that you have to find out. The rookie contracts are structured in such a way that you have to know after 3 years whether you have the guy or not. So to give away one of those years and say we're not going to play him, it's just not realistic when you're talking about these long-term decisions for coaches and GMs who are under pressure to win right away. So the Raiders, I think, are currently paying 4 different head coaches. So, like, obviously, if you're with the Raiders, we may not be here long. We got to hit this window. So, I think it's an interesting idea. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Jets. My understanding is the Jets have checked in on that, and we're told no, the Raiders are not moving off that pick.
Graz, we've entered a portion of the calendar where we see pre-agency with NFL teams trading for guys. We saw Trent McDuffie, all-pro corner, on the move to the L.A. Rams. Yesterday, we saw DJ Moore move from Chicago to Buffalo. I'm curious to know what's the next move and what has spurred these teams giving up premium draft assets in order to make moves on guys that are currently under contract with other teams.
So I think the main thing is these teams are looking at the draft and thinking, in the case of the Buffalo Bills, we're not going to get anybody with this second-round pick that's going to help us as much as DJ Moore is, right? So
they tried that with Keon Coleman.
Right. So so let's get him. The Buffalo's in a win-now window. They got to hit it. And the Rams very much so as well, as good as they were this past year, and Stafford getting close to the end. So, like, who are we going to get with pick 29 that's going to help us more than Trent McDuffie? So you see teams coming back from the combine and having assessed the draft to a larger extent, and also the free agent market to some extent, even though that's technically not allowed. They do seem to come back from the combine with a sense of what people's market's going to be. So if it's going to be tough to find an impact receiver in the draft or in free agency, and if the Eagles are asking too much for A.J. Brown, what can we do that helps us, that we know works, that will be an upgrade for us? DJ Moore to Buffalo, Trent McDuffie to the Rams, teams that need to win this year and feel like this is a better answer than trying to compete for who's the top cornerback on this year's market. Is it like Reek Woolen or Jamel Dean, or like a lot of times these guys get to free agency and the first question teams ask is, well, why? Like, why is this guy a free agent? Why didn't his last team like him enough to keep him? And so, DJ Moore is a case where the Bears do like him. They just signed him a couple years ago, but they've drafted so much pass-catching talent that they could afford to part with him. They save some cap space. They get a nice pick out of it, and everybody's happy.
Graz, you just hit on something I want to follow up on. We're talking to Dan Graziano. By the way, if you read his stuff, ESPN.com, over the weekend, he and Jeremy Fowler put out a story of what they heard at the Combine that was unbelievable. I kept going and going and going with my notes on it.
There was
awesome
a lot of
job
stuff in
by
there.
you guys. Yeah,
Thank you.
Seriously, awesome job. And late slip-in of like 2 out of the Falcons out of nowhere in there. But I want to follow up on one thing that you just said. In life, if you're not somebody as close to it as you are or CC is, you would hear the guy who gets cut must be doing something wrong. The guy who's a free agent must be doing something right. And it's actually reversed based on what you just said, right? Explain this, because that was fascinating how you just laid this out.
What you mean, like...
So if you get... Tremaine Edmonds got cut last night by the Bears. That's because he was really good and makes a lot of money. He never actually hit free agency with the Bears because of the fact that he was good. Right. You're saying the guys that hit free agency are probably not good enough.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the answer on Tremaine Edmonds is not he was good, but not good enough to justify his salary anymore.
But he had that salary in the
right. So at one point, the Bears thought, well, this is the guy.
Right.
And they went out and got him when he was an unrestricted free agent. He played well for them, but again, like they've turned over the coaching staff, new defense, all that kind of stuff last year. So maybe he doesn't fit, especially at that number. Tremaine Edmonds, I believe, is the third highest paid off-ball linebacker in the league.
Yeah.
Like, is he the third best? Right. So obviously you're at the Bears and you're at a point where you're looking to cut to save cap room so you can go out and do some other things. That's what ends up happening. But I'm talking about the unrestricted free agent that gets to the market.
Yeah.
George Pickens not on the market. Dallas values him so much that they franchised him, right? Kyle Pitts not on the market. This is Breece Hall not on the market. So you know how the Jets feel about it. It's very rare that a free agent gets to market that the team really wanted to keep but just couldn't. You see it a little bit with the great team. Seattle's dealing with it. They probably have 5 free agents they'd like to keep. They're probably going to end up keeping 2, maybe 3 of them. The Eagles last year lost a bunch of guys on defense. Alec Pierce will hit the market in Indianapolis because they felt like they needed to use their one tag on the quarterback, on Daniel Jones. So, that's a rare case. More often than not, somebody gets to free agency and it's like, well, he's maybe 28. Maybe his peak years are probably behind him, or certainly, like, if we sign him for 4 years, we're not getting 4 great years, which is why these contracts are structured like Tremaine Edmonds, where you can just cut them. So, yeah, I think that's the thing, and you do hear that from teams sometimes. I hear it a lot from like Dallas Cowboys people. Why aren't the Cowboys more active in free agency? And it's just like, there's some reason this guy's a free agent. Like, if he was that great, his team wouldn't have let him out. There are so many devices you can use to keep a guy. There's franchise tags, there's 50-year options, there's all these things. So I think that's important. I hate to sound wet blanket. This is a time of year when teams and fans are excited about what free agency means, and we've seen it many times over the years where somebody, a big free agent, offseason can help turn your team around quickly. But I do think if you're wondering why my team isn't spending more, oftentimes the answer is maybe we don't want to pay premium prices for sort of sub-premium talent.
Graz, at least a quarter of the league